Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Oregon politicians do not want you to see this. They're pretending like everything is okay. It is not okay. There's people in legit crisis every day, hundreds of people throughout the city of Portland, and they're acting like everything's great. We have a legitimate mental health crisis, addiction crisis, homeless crisis. All these politicians recently came to Portland and said, look, everything's great. I'm going to walk in this one small square block in the nicest part of town and act like it's great, when in fact it is not. This is the kind of stuff I see every single day, and I'm going to keep showing this until finally they listen and finally possibly change happens. I don't know, but this is completely unacceptable that people like him are ignored. This is just really, really sad. This is the reality of the streets, whether you like it or not.
The central city of Portland, Oregon, and it is a beautiful day, and we are very happy to be here speaking with you today. In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection. There is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city.
Voters Digest again. I'm Bruce Broussard. Right up front with you. As I said, we're going to start this series trying to figure out what is going on and how do we solve some of the major problems we're having, not only just in this country, but in our own state here in the state of Oregon. And naturally, that's the top of the chain aspect of it. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to talk a little bit more about what are the issues, and do we have issues here in the state of Oregon? Well, we do. And we're going to start right with the governor's office, because that's the stop. That's where the buck stops, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to do that. I've got my guests today. We've got two Johns here, John Sweeney and John Leuenberger, and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to talk about John Leuenberger is going to open it up with talking about the whole issue with the state aspect of it, yep. And make some comments along that line. And then John Sweeney is going to come in. We're going to bring it down to the Portland metropolitan area,
right? And
then just talk about everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to get some context. So I brought those clips in. The first one is from Instagram. The handle of the independent journalist is Dahlgren Kevin, Dahlgren, Kevin spelled normal, Kevin. It's on Instagram. He has a website, truthonthestreets.substack.com. He's an independent journalist here in Portland who's shedding light on what's really happening in Portland, because we can't seem to get K2, Coin, Fox, any of these guys to actually report what's going on the streets of Portland. This gentleman is going around, and that was just one clip. That was a week ago, right? So that clip is from a week ago. He's showing what's going on for the crisis of this gentleman. But then I showed the clip from Governor Kotek and the swath of people that she had behind her on September 27th, saying there's no problem here. Now, she was trying to refer to the ICE situation, but I think she was referring to Portland and the state of Oregon as a whole. She was trying to tell the feds, stay away. We don't need your help. We don't need your federal aid, meaning we don't need your people, boots on the ground, but we do need your federal aid and all the money you continue to give us. So this part of Portland where we're standing is safe and clean. So we can report that Portland as a whole is safe and clean. You're kidding. Well, and so then we have to show the hypocrisy. That was September 27th. A week ago, Kevin Dahlgren shows, and he's got plenty of clips. He showed a clip this morning of the No Kings protesters walking right past all of the homeless. And they're going to protest Donald Trump when our streets are covered in homeless people who are defecating, urinating, overdosing
right now.
on the streets. And they're more worried about the man in Washington, D.C. than the people that are dying on the streets of Portland. That should be a giant red flag. When did we stop being decent human beings? When did we stop caring? Why are all the homeless here? Why are they in Seattle? Why are they in Los Angeles? Why are they in San Francisco? What's different about these meccas for the homeless on the West Coast than anywhere else in the country? Well, we let them do whatever they want with little to no consequences. We give them money, resources, needles, whatever we can do. We give them food. The social systems in place in these states are giving them the resources that they need to not get off their butts and actually do something. Now, some of these people are in
They need help.
severe mental health crisis.
They need help.
They do need help. Some of them are just choosing to shoot up, and they need treatment, but the government can't be involved in that treatment, in my opinion. I apologize, John. I would like to
Well,
hear.
before you get on that particular piece, let's start now. Who's paying for all of this?
Well, I mean, we, the people, the taxpayers, but we're not taking in as much money as the feds are doling out to the state, or the state is doling out towards the problem. So we, the taxpayers, are being burdened with this, but we are using money that doesn't exist to fix a problem and putting our country in more and more debt to the world. We have trillions, we have multi-trillions of dollars in debt in this country. It's because we're paying out more than we're taking in, and it's going to be detrimental to our economy at some point. It's already detrimental to our economy, but it's going to be far so.
And you notice that this is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and they should be informed and educated, right?
Right. Well, did
As
you ever
opposed to
vote
just
on the constant spending and tax levying? Did you ever vote on these issues?
No, I got a tax bill, though.
You got a tax bill. Did you ever vote on these issues?
Nope.
Not directly, but when it comes on the ballot, I tackle it every time.
Right. Well, we say no, right? But then somehow it always gets instituted. And none of the people are asking for more taxes. But why are more taxes being levied on us?
Well, one of the things they did when they come along with ballot measure 5, which was a property tax measure, is they developed a lot of system development charges. So, in fact, there was a pizza parlor on Southeast Belmont and want to move across the street. Well, they want to do the surveys and all that. They wanted to charge them $37,000. And there wasn't any change except for the side of the street, because he's going to have a bigger shop. Well, he had to get a lawyer and finally got it knocked down, so he only had to pay $17,000. And in fact, out in Tualatin, they asked the local business to give up some property next to a creek so that they could have a bike path and all that, and then they'd have to modify the curb and all that, and then they wanted to sock him with $100,000 of system development charges. And then, well, they took him to court, and it says they asked for this and we gave them this, and there was the value of the property
as a donation, right?
As a donation.
As a donation. They didn't sell it to the state.
No,
they
gave
donated it, and they still get this levy.
And they were so stunned when he went to court, and they lost and they lost and they lost. And
who? The private owner?
No, the government agencies that wanted to sock them with the system development charges. He says, well, we stick everybody else.
Well,
Judge says,
and both are represented by legal, right? Lawyers. And who's picking up the tab?
Well, we are. Okay. So I mean, it goes to, say what you will. I mean, my dad was a lawyer, so I'm going to tread. But the legal system, the judicial system, has turned into a whorehouse. It's all about striking deals to make as much money as possible behind closed doors. The legal system is corrupt. Very few.
Why is it so?
There's so much money to be made in the legal system. Lawyers just, they're taught how to speak, and they know how to use their tongue
that's their job.
just enough to be able to get what they want.
That's the
right?
Career. That's the career.
Well, some evil people or moral people would take that ability and use it for their gain. And then once some others see, so like let's say it started 100 years ago, lawyers started being corrupt, right? Well, only a few of them were corrupt at the time. But then as they see, as more and more see that you get a lot more by being corrupt, then the tide shifts to where, what, I don't know. I know one, maybe two moral lawyers at this point in my life, and they're just living. I know my father was a moral individual, but it's a corrupt, evil system. And they've made it so necessary. Lawyers have made it so necessary to use them that you can't escape it. They're money pits.
Well, it's part of the system now.
Well,
it's part of the system.
Yeah.
Fair? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that it's not that we know it's wrong, but it's part of the system. It's an acceptance. It's a standard.
We shouldn't accept it.
Yep.
I keep bringing this up. I brought it up the last time. We should stop accepting what is the norm. What they've told us is reality. We should stop accepting it. Now, when you start opposing people who have money, power, wealth, they tend to fight back mean. They get you under the belt, sort of a thing. So please don't.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
But let's go back to the introduction.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the
those
introduction.
videos.
Let's go back to those two videos aspect of it. The first one, the fact of the matter is, you've got media is covering it locally, okay? But as you said, it's not the normal, right?
No, it's not. It's not Coin. It's not K2. It's an independent journalist with a phone going out on the streets and actually recording what's really happening in the city of Portland, not what what the propaganda machine is putting out there for us to consume. We're not a part. This show is not a part of the propaganda machine, so we can say whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
Because K2, Coin, others have the majority of Oregonians encapsulated with the news that they say, they can twist the narrative. I mean, we see it on the national stage all the time. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox. They all have a political agenda. They all have they're going to show what they want to make it look bad, or they're going to show what looks good to kind of throw you off. It's all lies. It's all lies at this point.
Well, when you start thinking about the economy, and you start thinking about who picks up that tab, the ads.
Well, the advertisers, yeah. Look at the advertisers.
Those are the businesses, right? And here we are talking about the businesses are complaining about all of the stuff that's happening to their businesses on the streets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Got me? And then they complain to whomever, and then supposedly they're supposed to correct that, and then in essence, either go to the city and say, I need some money to get my windows fixed because you didn't do this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the city's like, screw you.
Right. But then at times they do have to pay, but then they ask the taxpayers, send your dollars in so I can. My point is that it's a round and around deal.
Well, you look at the television stations, for example. The deal is it's about the viewers, because one station can say they got a lot more viewers than the other. They're going to get more advertising, and
well,
you know, they say like at a football game, they got so much advertising. A lineman only actually plays 13 minutes out of the hour.
Well, so at least for me, with I mean, I get it with the national news channels.
Yeah.
They got to bend to the almighty dollar because they can't run 24/7 unless they are, right? But with our local news channels choosing not to show the reality of the situation, but to show what Governor Kotek and Mayor Wilson are lying to us about is I mean, they're culpable in whatever lies that the local government is spouting, that the city of Portland is fine, that we don't need any help. I drive in from a different county. There's trash all over Portland. It's disgusting. 30, 40 years ago, it was kind of clean on the streets of Portland.
It was. Yeah.
You can't go anywhere. It's very hard to go certain areas of the city. I know that they'll upkeep the nice money producing areas, but even around Pioneer Square, right? It's disgusting. Who wants to go to that mall? It's gross downtown. When there's urine, when there's feces, needles, who wants to go downtown to something that the news, our local news is saying, this isn't a problem. You don't see all these problems. And then we've got an independent journalist who's pointing it out and saying, yeah, this is a big problem. This is happening all over the city. But the local government doesn't want me to just focus on one area. So now I have to go throughout the entire city of Portland and document everything because no one else is.
Wow. Well, then, like I said, where do we go from here, though? We're trying to correct this problem. Who do we go to? Who do we speak to?
So there's multiple ways that we could do this, right?
Talk to me.
So just stop watching the news, the local news. If they're not giving you the stories that you want, and go find the people that are actually telling you the truth. That cuts into their advertisers. Their advertisers freak out.
Yep.
That's one way to do it, right? We can call for re-elections. We can call for new people to elect, or we can call for recalls.
But who's going to step up to the plate?
That's a fantastic question.
Who? Who's going to step to the plate?
I don't know.
Because in all due respect, if you start, now you're responsible for your platform that you're saying, I'm going to correct the problem. I mean, people start taking pot shots at you.
Well,
you give up your address in terms of where you reside.
Mayor Wilson has been in office for almost a year at this point, and what has he done to help the homeless problem that he promised the constituents of Portland that he would do in the election
He's got until December to solve that problem.
We're mid-October. He's got 2.5 months to solve a problem that he said he'd be working on all year.
But that was part of his platform, and no one challenged him on that point, and media didn't. In fact, in many ways, they endorsed him based on what he said. And
I'd like to see where the money, if his company donated to their media platforms.
Well, indirectly, he did donate to his platform because he had a business. So that means he's not in
right. So what I'm saying is, what if the business paid K2 or Coin or whoever a nice donation?
I think he was struggling to a certain degree because it was electric trucks. He had some electric trucks and whatever. He's trying to.
No, that's a booming business right now.
Well, but the bottom line is, evidently, I don't know whether or not it's from a futuristic standpoint. In Oregon, we're anti-oil. We're anti anything along that particular line.
Well, he didn't do what he was supposed to do when he had a chance to do it, and that's when they were selecting the president of the council, because he was there, and several times there was a tie. And one of his jobs is, if there's a tie, he used to break the tie, because he could right off the bat, first time there's a tie, he says, I'll pick that one.
So is that in the election of the president of the council?
That is correct.
That's the only time he can veto?
No. When there's a tie, and there was a tie several times before they finally picked the woman who's got the job. Mm-hmm. But he was right there. So the first time they had a tie, he could have stepped up and said, pick you.
We could have picked one or the other. I got you.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
And he did not do that. He was there.
What did he do?
He just sat there.
He just watched it happen.
Like a lump on a log.
What two people were there?
No, the whole council was there voting.
Ties. There was 12 people.
I know, but I mean, who were the two finalists, the two people that he could have picked one or the other.
I don't
were the
know
two
who
people?
they were, but,
okay.
the fact is, but finally they picked this woman because they got a majority. You know, you got.
So it sounds like there's multiple ties depending.
Got 7 out of 6 or whatever it was.
But like you said, he could have picked one of them
right off the bat.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, you know, you have these votes several times. You'll start building a lot of hard feelings between the people that are there. You know, and there's a lot of hard feelings there. But the deal is in the first vote, and there was a tie. He could have stepped up and said, "I'll take my option and I'll pick you." See, but he did not do that. He just sat there. I think they run 6 times. Don't quote me on that. But the thing is, he could have ended it right then when there was when there was a tie and there's 2 people there. He could have picked one, and that would have been. Or he could have picked somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But he was the one. But that's one of his duties, and the only thing he do on the console is to break a tie. And right off the bat, he didn't do it.
Jeez.
You know, he's like a deer in the headlights, and every time I see him, it's like the headlights are brighter.
Well, look, just that clip that we showed earlier. He didn't look like he knew what he was doing in that clip, in the background.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's the guy that the people chose. Well, through ranked choice voting, that's the guy that people chose. Which is
well, one of the things about the ranked choice, the old system, it was hard to get rid of a bad incumbent. This new system, it might be hard to keep a good incumbent, because in the New York, they had an election on this, and there was a conservative person that not only did he not get a leadership position, he was clear out of the system because the lefties are taking over some of these city councils and county commissions because it's easier than the state or the federal, and they're really upsetting the apple cart. And if somebody says, well, they don't know what they're doing, they know what they're doing. They're destroying this place, and they want this thing to go to hell in a handbasket, and you have all these social services that you're putting there. In fact, somebody said you get on the right part of it, it's like a $70,000 a year job. That's $35 an hour for somebody else. And if somebody's going to pay you $35 an hour, you got to have something on the ball. And there's jobs all over the place begging. Of course, they only pay, maybe $20, $25 an hour, but they're begging. So it's, in fact, I saw something on the tube, and I printed it out for my cousin or nephew that needs a job, and I'm getting lots of stuff saying, that my inquiry here, my inquiry there,
Yeah.
And in fact, after I retired, I applied for some jobs, and one of them had a pretty good chance at, and I thought, somebody really needs this job. And then the deal is my parents and my wife's parents, I really spent my time helping them until they passed away. But it's just the case that this system is going down the tube by design. They act like they don't know what they're doing, but it's an act. And I believe that somebody was watching the last city council meeting. I couldn't get on, and the conspirators were texting back and forth. I say this, you say that, and
Jeez.
back and forth. So it is really a scripted race to the bottom, and we're paying the freight top notch.
Well, where do we start, if you will, to change it? I think the first place you got to go back to the originators, the originators of the committee that put this piece together.
I would like to say Portland is fixable. But after listening to John and hearing what he's saying, Portland is not fixable.
Wait a minute,
the current
John.
form of
Wait a
government.
minute, John. Wait a minute, John.
No, it's the truth.
You're the future. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
In order to change what is now in place, which the council or the commission will not do, they will not give up their power. They now have secured $150,000 a year paycheck to do nothing. and they're going to make sure that their buddies all make their way through the council at some point, and it's just going to be incestuous, like it always is. But it's now much harder to get them out of office. I mean, we can recall them, but who's to say that the person that we're replacing them with isn't going to be their friend, or isn't going to be just as bad or worse? The city of Portland, Ted Wheeler and the former council did this city a major disservice by changing the form of government and instituting ranked choice voting. They and who's to say they didn't know what they were doing? They're not dumb.
So you're saying that the
politicians
city council
are dumb, but they're not dumb.
So you're saying former Mayor Wheeler and the crew, city councils, they're the one that basically came up with this new form of government.
During COVID, yeah, they did.
They had three choices, because the mayor does not have veto power. You know, they do something wild. All he could do is, if it's coming up to a vote, is hold a press conference and tell the people, you know, you need to talk to these people if they do that. So, because they had a chance in the original charter, this new charter, to put it in there. They had a chance in the primary. They had a chance in the general. They did not do that, and people talked to them about doing it, and they just sat back there, and it's kind of like when they launched ships for World War II. It's like if you made a whole bunch of holes in it and sent it off the ramps anyway, and just stood there and watched it as it sunk. You know.
Well, no one held the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, accountable during the fiasco that was COVID-19. They just kind of allowed the individuals in charge to continue spouting, this is for science, this is the science, this is safe, we're being safe. And during that time, they got to do a lot of things behind closed doors because no one was allowed to come in, because it's for your safety, right?
Yeah.
And that really helped in the people in the state legislature, because they had everything in sequence, or they were doing it on Zoom and all that. They didn't have to put up with us pesky citizens. So that's how a lot of the real rotten stuff at the state levels happened, because they were doing it for safety. And the evidence was out there not to do the shutdown, because some cities and counties did not do that, and they survived quite well. And their COVID infections wasn't any higher than Portland or any place else that actually slammed it down and killed it. I mean, look at downtown Portland. It's like a giant modern ghost town.
It was. Well, so I was in Utah at the time, working at a hospital, and I've never seen a city, the city of Salt Lake, mind you. Salt Lake is the capital of. No, it's not. No, it's not the capital. Yes, it is. I'm trying to think of. It's been a while since I've been there, but yeah. So Salt Lake, one of the busiest cities in Utah. No one's on the road.
No one's what?
No one was on the road during COVID. Not a soul. This is one of the busiest cities in the state of Utah. And I'm sure it was the same in Portland.
Yeah.
Not a soul on the road, because we were all told, stay home. Right? And so it was quiet and shut down, but also those people who, they were doing Zoom for the people to pay attention, but they didn't really have to pay attention to the chat when they were doing Zoom. They could just talk to each other and not really look at the chat. Or if they did look at the chat, they can ignore what the people were saying, but they had no accountability because they weren't inviting members of the public until towards the end to start voicing their opinion on Zoom. They were just hosting these events and saying, okay, we're gonna have our meeting and you can attend via Zoom. But John said plenty of people tried to stop Ted Wheeler and the former leadership of Portland, and they refused every single time because they were not accountable to anyone. No one could go to their office, because they weren't in their office, but no one could go to their office and demand that they be doing their jobs, because they weren't there. We weren't allowed to go there. The staff definitely wasn't there. They were at home collecting a paycheck. Everyone was collecting a paycheck for doing nothing. And they were making decisions behind closed doors that we did not approve of, just like they continue to do now, because they did it. They seized the power during COVID, and they're going to continue doing it because we ceded that power to them by not making them accountable, by following their rules of law, which was stay home, shut up, be safe. It's the science.
And a lot of businesses went down because, like a lot of restaurants, they didn't have enough seatings to do the 6-foot rule, and so they did a lot of takeout and that, and a lot of pickup stuff. And in fact, one of my favorite restaurants is still doing about 20% of people would call in and would come pick up their goods, and they also DoorDash and that type of thing. And so, and then a lot of people are doing it through Amazon and that type of thing. So a lot of small businesses are going down because nobody's going. In fact, there's a former disc jockey that moved to Astoria, and his wife was buying a lot of stuff. Well, she didn't buy something for about 3 weeks. The police came over on a wellness check because the Amazon truck wasn't showing up. So
Well,
it's
obviously, we got a problem.
Well, so I'd like to
still
speak.
asking that question.
Right. So I'd like to speak to this whole safety issue. So, my father died during COVID, December 2020. He died at St. V's, right? So, during the time, COVID was still. It was a year into it. It started December, November 2019. That's why it's called COVID-19, or it was found at that point, right? So, in December 2020, St. Vincent's is. And I'm sure a lot of the hospitals in the state of Oregon were doing this, or at least in the Portland metro. They were refusing families to go into the room of their sick loved ones, unless it was 2 people at a time, right? So my father was sick, dying. They would not let all 4 of his family members, close family members, go together and be there with him. At one point, they made us go in 2s. So it was my brother and I, my mother and I, or my brother and I, my sister and my mother. And then at the very end, this is how I'm trying to keep my language clean. This is how BS the rules were at that time and the science was at that time, right? So they're saying this is for the science. You can only have 2 people in the room with the person, right? Well, as soon as they declared him dying, dead almost, we were just waiting for his body to end. They said, "Oh, all 4 of you can go in the room now." Together. You can all 4 go in the room together now.
no, because he was checked.
Because he's dead. Well, but what about the science and the safety that said that we couldn't go into a room, that only 2 people could go into the sick person's room? It was for our safety because at home all 4 of us were together. So what rules, or what were they living on? The reality of the fact was they weren't. They were making it up as they went. They didn't know what they were doing. They said they did, and they lied to us. And then we accepted it, and we took it as a citizenry. And we said, sure, this is for the science. This is safe for us, right? This is important. Well, my family didn't get to say goodbye to my father one last time together because of these stupid rules that changed when his life was ending in science's eyes. The rules go out the window when the person is dying. Is that science based, or is that we're just looking to see how much we can get away with without you pushing back on us?
And a lot of deaths were attributed to COVID when they were not, because they were getting extra money for COVID deaths.
Yes. So if you died of COVID, the feds would pay the state or the organization money for declaring that death as a COVID death. Now, they didn't. My father didn't die of COVID because I asked them routinely to retest him, and I was in the medical field, and that's what we were doing in Utah at the time. They would not retest him. He was negative upon entry, and they treated him as negative as such. But as his symptoms progressed, it seemed like he was dying of COVID. His lungs collapsed, or his lungs stopped working, his kidneys stopped working. They could have tested him again, and they didn't. St. V's took abysmal care of my father. And it was, they were all doing, they tried to talk me out of giving him blood, too, at one point. They wanted me to, because they knew he was dying, and I knew he was dying, too, but they wanted to withhold possibly life-saving blood for him in case there was a surge of COVID patients coming in later. So they were trying to have families who are in distress pulled or stop allowing them to possibly give life-saving care, because if they saw them as a goner, we have to save it for the next patient who possibly could come in who has COVID. We have to save it for them. No, I pushed back, and I'm like, just give them the blood. Like, what are you doing? This is your job. It's not my job to tell a physician or staff that they should try to keep their patient alive.
Did you have that conversation with them?
They wanted me to put a DNR on him. It was my decision. It was my mother's decision.
DNR, what do you mean?
Do not resuscitate.
Okay.
So if he did die, they wanted me to make that decision. Well, it wasn't my decision to make. He was married to my mother. So it's her decision. And so because my mother, in distress, was having difficulty, she didn't tell them to not DNR him, so we watched them do CPR on him before I had to tell them to stop. So the whole process was wrong. I'm sure I'm not the only one whose parent or whose family member got mistreated during the whole ordeal. And they were just trying to save resources for a surge that I don't think ever came.
Quite an experience.
Yeah, it is. But it goes to they were making decisions behind closed doors, or Fauci was saying, this is okay, this is not okay, this is okay. And we just had to take it as a citizenry. We just had to accept that Anthony Fauci knew all.
And depending upon who's there, that's the basic who reacts to it. And
what Anthony Fauci was putting out, other people with good reputations regurgitated that and actually eventually destroyed their own reputation.
Right. Well, they were threatened that their licenses would be revoked, or that there would be repercussions if they did not follow Anthony Fauci's guidelines. Physicians were putting they were told, you're going to put your medical license on the line if you don't follow through with the current if you don't follow through with what Anthony Fauci is saying.
Wow.
That's the same with the gender-affirming care, too. Lock, stock, and barrel. Educators and medical people all up and down the line. And then they keep them in line through blackmail. You talk, you're done. And not only you're done here, you're done everywhere.
Right. Well, and a lot of the people that are against this transitioning, they're not... Once you're 18, you're an adult. Do whatever you want. That's what most of these people are saying. Now, there are some people that are like anti-trans entirely, but at 18, a person is considered an adult. They can do whatever they want. It's forcing parents or individuals to accept pre-18 transitioning that is wrong. You can't listen. A child's brain, or all of our brains, aren't fully developed until about 25, anyways. So 25 should be the standard, but it's not. 18 is the standard. If a child wants to, or an adult at that point wants to transition, that's fine. But the people that are against that are labeled as anti-trans because, or people who are for waiting till they're 18, but anti-pre-18 are labeled as anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ individuals, and they're evil because they're not allowing children to mutilate themselves, or medical professionals to mutilate children.
Okay.
because that's what it is. It's a mutilation of children. These children are sterile after going through transitioning.
And also, a lot of them, they have brittle bones like a 90-year-old. And you know, when a 90-year-old breaks their hip, usually in 18 to 24 months, they're gone. They die. And the deal is, you're talking about somebody that's probably 14, 15 years old, has got 90-year-old bones. And you know how you, in a bump and grind, why, you know, you'd be breaking bones left and right.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Let's talk a little bit more about Portland, the Portland metropolitan area.
Yeah, we can do that.
And the whole issue that people are looking at today. As you know, they've got the grand march here.
No King's
Yeah,
protest.
the King's aspect of it. Do you think this is something that would be of value to the issues that we're having today?
This march?
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to my buddy before we come on the air, and he was watching the internet and all that, and a lot of these marches along the way, as they moved from the East Coast to the West, there was a lot of violence along the line, and of course, being in here while it's going on, I don't know how much violence was going on in Portland, and I mentioned a couple people before this as well. Portland's different. No, the deal is you get your agitators in there, and all they got to do is find a couple of people that are not with it to raise hell, and the next thing you know, they're breaking windows and their cars and all that kind of stuff.
I would like to know who the bad act. Well, we can recognize that there are bad actors at all of these protests, right?
Yep.
People being paid
Yep.
to do something. We got to figure out who those people are and what organizations are doing this, because a protest is within your First Amendment right. You are allowed to protest. It's when you start getting physical, violent, destroying property, that it becomes an issue. Now, these people going out and protesting, no kings, great. We, in 250 years ago, we decided no kings in this country, and that's the way it is, right? And they can believe what they want about Donald Trump, but I also think that a lot of these people have been brainwashed to believe what they think about Donald Trump. Granted, like I said in the last episode, I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump at this point. He's gone back on things that he's promised. He has lied. He's become a politician, and I am disgusted with his behavior. He's become he never had integrity, as you kind of tried to tell me, but he has absolutely no integrity in my eyes at this point.
Yeah. Well, they just have this thing where they're working out, and on these disruptions, they have people. Some are opportunists. They see something going. They know they can muck it up. But then there are the paid professionals. Now, when I was a military policeman in the Guard, the thing is, it had extensive education on that, and you get the paid professionals down there, and they're. In fact, today's paper talked about, and yesterday's paper talked about, the people out there being provocateurs and getting this thing started. And what they can do is get the people riled up, and you're in the front lines, and they get behind and they lock their arms. And so when the police or the National Guard comes down with their nightsticks and stuff like that, if you're on the front line, you can't back up, and you're going to get hurt. And it was really amazing on how effective that works. In fact, we did some training with that out there when I was in the MPs, and had some people acting the part of being raising hell, and we got in the back and locked our arms. And there was 25 of us that stood behind about 75 people, and we held them pretty good. You know, of course, you figure we're all pretty healthy guys, but the guys that were actually on the line were pretty healthy guys, and then the guys coming down, and at the time they had rifles with bayonets and they had scabbards on them, because in '67 the soldiers had rifles, M1 rifles, 9 pounds with 12-inch bayonets on it, and then in '68 they had riot batons, which is a lot safer for everybody. But I was a military policeman, and watched how this training went, and they talked about how the professionals, agitators, do that. And then when the authorities kind of get the line, then the thing is, the agitators, they just disappear.
Yeah.
Now, they had an event at Portland State, and the fact that they had the demonstrators got permission verbally to erect a first aid tent, and they had in this first aid tent Band-Aids and aspirin, and that's all. And the police went over and inspected and all that. And anyway, and the captain of the Portland Police riot squad waited and waited, and then the city council come down, somebody from the city office says, "You will move on them or you are fired." And so that's when the police moved on them. And then, of course, then some people were throwing short pieces of rebar at them, and a piece of rebar hits you on end, you're going to be in trouble. But the deal is the city overreacted, because the thing is, if they had just let it wear out, the weather's coming up was going to be bad. You know, you're out there in the South Park blocks, and there was no leaves on the trees, and it's going to rain, and you're going to figure it's time to go home. So there's a lot of bad decisions on that.
Yeah, I think of late, I think it was just announced in the news the other day or so, that there are undercover cops from the Portland Police Department there. I thought that was an interesting.
Well, it goes to show that
it's always been that way. I don't know what.
Well, yeah. Well, let's just think. January 6th, right? January 6th, 2020. A lot of people got arrested for an insurrection on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., right? Well, we know from, documents that the FBI was there instigating it all, and that they decided to, hype up the crowd, and then those men disappeared.
Yeah, well, my instructor at PCC says, when this country started, the lawyers jumped to the top of the heap, see? And then Jimmy Carter became the president, and he came out with a zero-based budget. And so you get a lot of people doing this thing because it's about the budget. And if you're running a police department and you want it to be plenty of money, you got to show that you're doing something. So you got to actually have police agencies competing for those dollars. So they're doing more and more of things that they shouldn't be doing. Rather than being peace officers, they become agitators, because it shows that they're doing something, because the press just loves it, because if it bleeds, it leads, and they'll be there talking about it almost forever.
Oh yeah, police brutality. If the local news got a hold of police brutality with the OPB or the Portland Bureau of Police (PBP), then it would be national news. It would blow up if Portland had any sort of police brutality. It would be a national news item, and then it would be a nightmare for the city of Portland. So.
And who's picking up the tab?
We are. Okay. The other thing is, on the local metropolitan areas, Multnomah County is going to rank choice voting in November 26th next year. And the other interesting thing on the election, state level, is, well, September 11th was a time when you could sign up for running for office first day. So you have some people sign up early and some late. And the filing deadline is March 11th or 10th. The new rub is the incumbents who are going to run for re-election, their deadline is March 7th. No, March 3rd. Because so then you'll know who the incumbents are who are running for re-election. Now, I live in House District 42, and I call it the slime slot, because they had a number of people among the slime that slipped through there, including Governor Brown and Shirley Gold before her. So they didn't announce that they were not running for re-election, or the fact that they were moving up, and they moved up through there, and that's how Governor Brown got in, because somebody was moving up, and Shirley Gold was going to move up, and they brought Governor Brown in when she became a state representative and moved up like that. And in fact, what irks me is that Shirley Gold, just before she went out of office in there, she introduced a deal that if you got laid off and drawn unemployment, suddenly you had to pay income tax on your unemployment. I mean, you're down, and then they want to kick you too. So, but the deal is that, and the other thing about Jimmy Carter, when he came in with his zero-based budget, and then he had system development charges and all that, and it changed being in government, whether you're in the military or the local government, because
Big time.
they budget a certain way, and if you want their money, you got to budget the same way. And so Jimmy Carter got elected in '76, become president in '77, and so starting in '78. Now the quirk on that is that state and local governments, their fiscal years, the 1st of July to the 30th of June, but the feds moved theirs to the 1st of October to the 30th of September. So there's an offset sometimes that the locals want to start something, but they're not going to get the money until October, or when they want to shut it down, well, the money goes through October, and then sometimes the Fed says, well, you shut it off in July, so that portion of the money you got to give it back, and they really don't like doing that. So, and anytime a politician gets up there, especially a candidate, says we got to go to a zero-based budget, and they use a zero-based budget modified, but anyway, they're way behind the time, because that happened in '78. So, just something to remember, and so, you know,
Okay.
it's like they say, is that you're trying to go forward, and you have the lawyers pulling the short hairs one way, and the accountants are pulling the short hairs another way, and it's hard to go forward.
But everybody's getting the check. Okay. Well, look, this has been quite a discussion. I guess as I'm listening to what you guys are saying, I'm thinking the highlighted points that I was very interested in was one, that those image photos with the governor, Gina Kotak, and then the people that were behind her. The mayor was there. She had some congressional delegation folks that were there. Kind of a diverse background, so to speak, of various citizen aspect of it. And I'm saying that these people are endorsing what she's saying.
Yeah.
And the mayor was there. The largest city of the state of Oregon was there. Okay, got me?
Yep.
And then and then you got this other video with this gentleman. What is it? Little video camera.
Yep. Kevin. Yeah.
Kevin is showing the deal. I wonder.
That was just one clip. He posts daily, multiple times a day.
He does. We got to get him back. We got to get him on, because in all due respect, my point is that, like I said before, I don't follow the whole issue of the marketing in regards to the fact that it's a Trump thing. No, it's a wake-up call. He to me, that's heavy, and people are waking up. They need to wake up, because we got a vote
they
coming.
do need
That's
to
the key.
wake up, but I don't think Trump's the wake-up call. I think his inaction is the wake-up call, or his perceived lying is the
Well, it's still a wake up. I mean, like I say, in order for you to get to the point where you're saying he's perceived lying, you were looking at him and following him on certain
Oh,
things.
he lied. I'm so upset with the fact that and I don't know why I was hoodwinked again by another politician.
So I'm just saying.
I'm getting sick and tired of it.
So I'm
it's
saying,
almost as if they need to be removed.
So I'm saying, John, you're the wake up call. So so what are you going to do now? Are you going to run for office?
All right, we'll figure it out.
What? No, I want more than that. 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 I want the wake up call. I want the wake up call.
Yeah, well, I'm not giving you anything.
Was
right
that?
now, so.
Oh well.
I'm not committing to anything because I'm not ready to do that.
We can always put your name in. I mean, there's no problem.
Well, if I put my name in, I kind of want it to be a more serious event. So,
Was it?
if I'm going to put my name in for any sort of political position, I would like a little bit of a surety that something's going to happen. I'm not just doing it willy-nilly.
Well, we got to start somewhere.
Well, I mean, this is a personal conversation that we could have off air. How about that? Not on air.
I think the deal is if you run there, you should wear tall brown boots.
Well, that's true. Yeah, brown boots are definitely important.
Well, the other thing is brown sandals work good because it hides the stains and the stuff just runs through.
That's true too.
Well, like I said, we're sitting in some serious times right now. We got to figure out, we've got to do something. And like I said, that's why I'm using the word wake up, and that's just common. It's about an 8th grade level piece. It's not a sophisticated kind of a deal. It's just straight up. It's not even a politician. Everybody has that. We have definitions of what politician are. You can look it up in the Webster, if you will. But the bottom line is that we need to talk about this thing. That's what we're doing now. We're doing it purposely now, talking about these things. It's not about we're for this or for this or for that. Hey, we're all trying to figure out, we got to be at the table. And hopefully we're encouraging the voters out there that are looking at this show, if you will, to do similar kinds of gathering. Get your neighbors. Get a little block gathering, if you will, and to talk about what are you going to do. What about public safety? Well, what about community policing? The word community policing at one point in time was a major issue, where people would organize the block, the block to talk about public safety, and get a couple of bucks and put the piece together, and and they're working very closely with the police department. Got my point? And that kind of a stuff. And we're not doing those kinds of deals. And like you said, the lottery aspect of it, and all of the vandalism and stuff. I mean, like you said, people right now, they said, okay, fine, people urinating on the streets right downtown or in the neighborhood, but no one calls the police. And then if they do call the police, they say, well, look, that's not in my jurisdiction this time. I got other things to do. John?
Well,
what are you going to do?
Well, a lot of things that turn out are a good idea, but the execution is terrible. And just like that Doge thing was a good idea, but the thing is, they got all these young people that without a clue, and sometimes they're in charge of something and they react rather than taking a look at something and seeing what it is. In fact, with the Park Bureau, they hired a new guy, came in, and all our park lights were on a photo cell. Well, he came into Columbia Park where I was working, and it was a dark day, so the lights were still on at 10 o'clock. And he, instead of consulting anybody, he took the photo cells out and went to an astro clock, which works on the time. Well, the trouble is, throughout the city, there's short power interruptions. And I got on his case. I says, look, you shouldn't have done that. He said, but the lights were on. I says, yeah, but the deal is now, certain parks, we have to check the clocks on this stuff every 3 weeks so that we keep it within an hour of a half hour. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'll get in 6 months, it'd be way out of whack. The stuff would be coming on at noon. Oh. But they never corrected it. So, but this is the whole thing is that they need to look at what they want to do and says, okay, when we see something we don't like or we question, why is it this way, and how can we
but
correct
John,
it?
They're supposed to be having those discussions behind the doors, but by the time they hit to the citizenry, they should be talking about solutions.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know if we have much time to get into this.
No, we don't. But that's what I'm saying. We get to that point, so I can say we're going to start it. Blah blah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, community.
Real quick, like we got to go.
Yeah. Okay. Community policing. It's like we've had several things around here that work, and for some reason they cut it off. And I think the deal is if they had a police reserve as a stepping stone to come into the police, would work better.
Good point. That'll be the start off point when we get to the next show. Okay. Sounds good, folks. Again, like I said, Wolf Voters Digest, you're listening. Get to the table. Talk to you later. Have a good one. Take care.